Unbelievable. Time distortion. Space is the place, Mean Gene Okerlund. Go down that lonesome highway, yeah, but don't be hypnotized, no. Reincarnation does not have to be. You can use mental telepathy. This is Mark Bellum, SuperTraining.tv, Super Training Gym, the strongest gym in the West. That was a ridiculous response from Macho Man Randy Savage to the then Intercontinental Champion, claiming to be the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. I'm cool, I'm cocky, I'm bad, the honky tonk man. We have questions to answer today for the Power Project, sponsored by HowMuchYouBench.net, The Slingshot, and the only strength magazine in the world, ThePowerMagazine.com. The questions for today are about being fat. What a shock. Questions for today are about getting ripped, tan, and vascular, being jacked and tan like myself. A lot of questions have been coming in lately about CarbNite and about carbohydrate backloading. And there's always a lot of confusion on which method is which. Somebody just came out of the closet there. Very brave of them. A lot of questions about CarbNite and carbohydrate backloading, how to choose which one. If you're fat, CarbNite is going to be for you because it's a 7-day ketogenic diet. Ketogenic basically referring to the fact that you're eating high fat, high protein, and no carbohydrates throughout the entire week. The last 2 days, or the last 2 meals on the 7th day, you can basically eat whatever you want. Let's just say it that way, make it easy on you. But you want to, if you're fatter, above 20% body fat, be honest with yourself. If you're above 20% body fat, you want to create some good habits, and you still want to eat some healthy carbohydrates. Remember that there are no real bad carbohydrates, just badly timed carbohydrates, poorly timed carbohydrates. People are sometimes eating the carbohydrates at the wrong times and not eating them post workout. So that's the whole principle behind carbohydrate backloading. Basically, the principle is that when you're weight training, when you do some resistance training, you're going to be able to absorb more carbohydrates post-workout. Now, if you're fat, that's you, and that's you, and that's you out there. That's 99.9% of you, I'm sure. I still consider myself fat. I still have a lot of work to do. I still want to shave off even more fat. But if you feel like you want to pull more fat off your body, and you're already lean, you don't need to kill yourself. If you are too fat, you know who you are. Again, be honest with yourself. Then you're going to want to not eat carbohydrates hardly at all. Keep in mind that when I tell you this, that this is in reference to ketogenic diets. There are other ways to lose body fat. I don't want to just sit here and promote one type of diet or one style of diet, because there's a lot of ways to go about doing things. Each person's body is different. For myself, I responded really well to CarbNite and to carbohydrate backloading. But also keep in mind that I have been doing keto-like diets since I was about 20 years old. I'm now 36, so it has worked for me for a very long time. I did have a break where I was fat, getting my fat on to try to hit some huge powerlifting totals. I was able to accomplish that, able to go up over 2,600 pounds more than once, and able to squat over 1,000 pounds many times in competition, able to bench over 800 pounds many times in competition as well. Recently, I came down and did the 242-pound weight class, just competed 2 days ago on Sunday, and did a 733 deadlift and benched 501. 501 was a raw bench press, the first time I ever benched over 500 pounds in competition. When I was a fat son of a bitch, I benched 555 for triple in training, and I think my best touch and go bench was about 575, but I never really tried anything more than that. I did try a 610 bench, and I tore my pec, so that was that. Anyway, people are always asking about getting stronger or gaining muscle and burning fat at the same time. Gaining muscle and burning fat at the same time. You can kind of achieve that, because what's going to happen is as you pull more fat off your body, if you're already muscular, you're going to look bigger. You'll have people even ask you, like, dude, are you getting bigger? And you might have lost 15 pounds. However, here's something to keep in mind as well. You cannot lose a bunch of weight and get stronger. You cannot lose a bunch of weight. And I know there's a couple of you guys out there going, oh, I did it, or my brother did it. But the reason why they probably did it is because they are a piece of shit. They are not currently training hard. They are not currently pushing themselves to the limits. They are not currently strong, most likely. I'm not talking about a couple of pounds, because people can make some changes and they can actually lose some body fat and they can actually gain some strength in some cases. When you're talking about a 10-pound loss, 15-pound loss, and maybe about a 20-pound loss. And yes, there are always exceptions to the rule, but I'm speaking in general terms. If you're going to lose anything more than like 15 or 20 pounds, you're going to be in trouble and you are going to lose strength. My best bench press in competition in a 275-pound weight class is an 854-pound bench. When I did that 854-pound bench, I probably weighed about 285 or 290. I competed this weekend and threw on a bench shirt for my third attempt. The bench shirt's a little bit looser than what I'm accustomed to, but no excuses. The results are the results. And being on the platform at about 260, so 30 pounds lighter, I failed to bench press 154 pounds less. And that's my results. And so everyone's results are going to be different. And so my geared lifting is down quite a bit. My raw lifting is not down as bad, not as much. I was able to maintain some of that, but due to the mechanics and stuff, due to the increased range of motion on the bench press, it has been more difficult to maintain that strength and that power. Will that strength and power come back? I'm going to force it to come back, and I'm going to do the best I can with it. But for now, I'm just having fun, trying to almost basically start over the clean slate. We had a question from a female about CarbNite and about carbohydrate backloading. She says her and her husband are doing it. This is from CrossFit Bozeman out in Montana, out in the middle of nowhere. She has a question about, she wants to continue to drop some body fat, and she wants to know if the diet is kind of different for women. In my experience, when advising women to do the diet, it is quite a bit different, and there's a bunch of reasons why. Reason number one, women typically have less muscle mass than men. Reason number two is women in general, don't get all upset, ladies, don't like to eat as much fat as men. Women tend to be a little bit more snackier than dudes. Women like to eat crackers and shit like that. So one of the issues is being able to consume enough fat calories in order to get into ketosis, in order to produce ketones, in order to tap into your own body fat on these low carbohydrate diets. So what you'll have to do, ladies, if you want to follow the diet the way it's meant to be followed, you'll have to consume large amounts of fat. Coconut oil is effective. Use it in everything that you cook. And then when you're done cooking, throw some more into your food. If you absolutely can't stand coconut oil, if you think it's disgusting, then you're going to have to look into some other options. But you got things like olive oil. You got things like fish oil. Fish oil, I would recommend looking into a liquid form of fish oil. I use one from a company called Barlean's. It is expensive. But this is your health we're talking about, and this is about being jacked and tan, right? So spare no expense. I use one from a company called Barlean's, and just shoot it in my mouth and swallow it. And I do that about 3 or 4 times a day. So that's quite a bit of essential fatty acids, omega-3s, and that sort of thing. So that's going to be something that you're going to have to do. You're going to have to figure out ways to consume more fat. You could do it through nuts. Ladies like nuts, right? Some do, some don't. I don't know. I'm talking out my ass. Anyway, you got macadamia nuts, you got cashews, you got almonds. The more raw the nuts are, the better. Roasted and those kinds of things it's just more processing that they're doing to the nuts. It's okay-ish, but you preferably have them be raw and preferably have them not be salted. You can also get fats through stuff like bacon and various meats. Grass-fed beef would be a fantastic thing to add to your diet. You can still eat things like chicken breast and pork and lean forms of pork and lean forms of steak. You can still eat all those things. All those things are fantastic, but they're not going to help you achieve what you're looking to achieve on a ketogenic style diet. You're going to need the fat in there in order to do it. And I know some of you are thinking, oh, well, bodybuilders, they just cut out all their fat and all their carbs. All right, we were rudely interrupted there by Brandon Lilly, the inventor of the cube. Let's get back on topic here. Let's get back on track. A couple things to keep in mind is I used CarbNite to lose 50 pounds, not carbohydrate backloading. Also keep in mind, when I do eat carbohydrates, I still follow the principles of the paleo solution from Rob Wolf. I always suggest that people buy these books so they have a better understanding of what the hell it is they're doing. Another thing to keep in mind is that when your intensity of your workouts increases, when you start to work out harder and you start to have more goals, you start to push your body harder, you're probably going to need more carbohydrates. So, for CrossFit Bozeman, what I would suggest to you, this is a female and I'm suggesting this to, I would suggest doing 2 or 3 weeks of CarbNite solution, where you're eating more fat and protein and less carbohydrates. Trying to go with 0 carbohydrates per day. Pretty much impossible to get 0, but you're trying to go really low on the carbohydrate content. And then so do that for about 2 weeks. After those 2 weeks are up, do some carb backloading only on training days. Cycle back and forth between those 2 diets go through that about 3 or 4 different times. So that'll be about a 9 to 12 week cycle. That should get you down to where you need to be. After the second cycle of that, you should have already dropped 3 to 5 pounds of body fat at that point. If you have not done that, then you may have to take some more extreme measures. You may have to throw in a little bit of cardio training. And I know that I don't typically advocate cardio training, but you might have to either A, use some very low tempo, slow paced cardio for 20 to 30 minutes at a time, something that is really easy, that's not taxing, or your other option is to do something really hard about 2 or 3 times a week for about 12 minutes, where you're doing kind of interval cardio. And you can kind of look that up. I'm not a master at cardio, but you can look up information on the interwebs on some of that stuff. But doing something for 6 to 10 seconds hard, and then resting for a minute, sometimes longer, depending on who you ask. But if you go to dangerouslyhardcore.com, you can look at some of the recommendations from John Kiefer. I know that Charles Poliquin will say do about, I think he says do 6 seconds hard and do about 18 seconds light. So that's over the course of 30 seconds, and you run through that about 10 times. So there's another option with your cardio. But you're a very small individual. From what I remember, you weigh about 115 pounds, so you should not need any cardio. I think another mistake that a lot of females make is they're always doing cardio, and they're not concerned, they're not thinking about gaining muscle. Everyone's goal should be to gain muscle. And the reason is that when you gain muscle, the more muscle mass that you have, the harder your body will work for you. And you don't have to be a slave to your body any longer. I started to drop body fat, and people said, holy shit. You know why they said holy shit? Because I have built up muscle over the years. I had muscle underneath there the whole time that some people didn't realize. But another thing to keep in mind with myself is I was fat for only a couple of years, about 4 or 5 years, that I was up in the 300-pound range. So anyway, when trying to choose between these 2 diets, be very honest with yourself. Try to choose goals that you can actually obtain, and then try to choose a style of diet that you feel is not only going to fit your needs and go towards your goals, but will also fit your lifestyle. We had another question about CarbNite and carbohydrate backloading from a guy who's 6'2" and 215 pounds. A lot of times this diet stuff and this diet advice and these questions that I'm getting are from people that shouldn't be on a quote-unquote diet. They should be training, and they should be working towards their main goal. Their main objective should be, I shouldn't say they shouldn't be on a diet, but their main goal, their main objective should be to gain muscle mass. I think that's lost in the shuffle here. You know, somebody started up a website called 70s Big. No, it's not a porn site. But I remember going to gyms in the 80s, in the late 80s. But I remember going to the gym, and everyone was just big. Like, people's shoulders people's arms, people's backs were so big that you never even thought to look at their stomach. They were just so jacked it didn't really matter. So while they didn't look like they could step on stage anytime soon, even if they diet effectively for 12 weeks, they looked jacked as hell and they looked great. And you didn't really notice that they had a little bit of a waist on them, which isn't a big deal when you're big. But everyone's goal should be to gain muscle. I know that some people think, oh, I'm going to get too bulky, or I'm going to get too this or too that. Getting too much of anything is really hard. They always say you can't be too rich and you can't be too skinny, right? Those are things that are very difficult to achieve. It's very difficult to be too ripped. It's very difficult to be too strong. Is there such thing as being too strong? I don't think so. Stan Efferding just did a 2,300 pound total. Congratulations, Rhino. But is he too strong? No. There's a guy by the name of Andrei Milanichev who totals 2,350 and is probably going to total 2,400. Is he too strong? Nope. There's a lot of people out there that even when they hit their big goals, when they hit some of these huge numbers, they always wish they kind of hit more. They're not really ever completely satisfied. But you can never be too strong. You can never be too ripped. You can never be too jacked. You can be too tan, I guess. That's another topic for another day. But keep in mind, when you're trying to select these diets, be really honest with yourself. Do you need to be bigger or do you need to be more ripped? Like at 215, if we were to pull 20 pounds of weight off you, you're now like looking at being like 190, 180 something pounds. Like that sucks. At 6'2", that's not good. You're not even going to look like you train. And you should look like a savage. You should look like you're training your ass off. So what I would suggest to you, even if your body fat is a little bit on the high end, I would continue to make muscle mass the main goal. Having said that, carbohydrate backloading is probably a better choice for you, or a bodybuilding style diet. Those have worked for years. Those have stood the test of time. You eat carbohydrates throughout the day. You eat 8 meals per day. You eat carbohydrates at nearly every meal. That's the way they do it. I swear to God. And some of them, yeah, you can say some of them are chemically enhanced, and that helps them to eat more carbohydrates and blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot of natural guys who've done it too. Keep in mind when the carbohydrates are higher, you're going to have to lower the amount of fat intake. So what I would suggest to you, just to give you an answer, do carbohydrate backloading for a little while. See how that goes. Do it with healthy carbohydrates. Don't do it with shitty carbohydrates, because you're trying to gain muscle mass. You're trying to use it for performance. And when you're trying to do anything for performance, you're trying to gain muscle. Is a Snickers bar really going to help you gain muscle? No one can tell me that a Snickers bar is going to help you gain muscle. However, Snickers bars and fast food and pizza and that kind of stuff can sometimes be effective when you're trying to gain strength and you're trying to get as big and as strong as possible. And the reason for that is that leverage. The more leverage that you have, the better off you're going to be. And just having a bigger body to lift up those big weights is going to be more effective in a lot of ways. I think that concludes our little discussion here today on CarbNite, carbohydrate backloading. And these sunglasses today are from my boy Creed. Creed, if you're out there listening, I know that you sometimes make fun of my sunglasses, but I don't think you can say anything about these. These are like Macho Man's right here. These are pretty amazing. When you're trying to be strong, you can't go wrong. Strength is never a weakness, and that is it from supertraining.tv. Mwah!